Today we are going to be reading chapter 3 and chapter 4. Remember to pull up the book as I read this if you want. I highly recommend that you do that with me just so that you can see and read along with me. So you can split your screen and do that as I read chapter 3 and chapter 4 to you. So chapter 3, Tenants in and Out. Upstairs in 3D, Angela Wexler stood on a hassock, as still and blank-faced pretty as a store window dummy. Her pale blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the lake. "Turn, dear," said Flora Baumbach, the dressmaker who lived and worked in a smaller apartment on the second floor. Angela pivoted in a slow quarter turn. "Oh!" Startled by the small cry, Flora Baumbach dropped the pin from her pudgy fingers and almost swallowed the 3 in her mouth. "Please be careful, Mrs. Baumbach. My Angela has very delicate skin." Grace Windsor Wexler was supervising the fitting of her daughter's wedding dress from the beige velvet couch. Above her hung the 24 framed flower prints she had selected and arranged with the greatest of taste and care. She could have been an interior decorator, a good one too, if it wasn't for the pressing demands of so on and so forth. "Mrs. Baumbach didn't prick me, Mother," Angela said evenly. "I was just surprised to see smoke coming from the Westinghouse chimney." Crawling with slow caution on her hands and knees, Flora Baumbach paused in the search for the dropped pin to peer up through her straight gray bangs. Mrs. Wexler set her coffee cup on the driftwood coffee table and craned her neck for a better view. "We must have new neighbors. I'll have to drive up there with a housewarming gift. They may need some decorating advice." "Hey, look, there's smoke coming from the Westinghouse." Again, Turtle was late with news. "Oh, it's you." Mrs. Wexler always seemed surprised to see her other daughter, so unlike golden-haired, angel-faced Angela. Flora Baumbach, about to rise with the found pin, quickly sank down again to protect her sore shin in the shag carpeting. She had pulled Turtle's braid in the lobby yesterday. "Otis Amber says the old man Westing's stinking corpse is rotting on an oriental rug." "My, oh my," Flora Baumbach explained, and Mrs. Wexler clicked her tongue in an irritated tsk. Turtle decided not to go on with the horror story. Not that her mother cared if she got killed or ended up having a raving lunatic. "Mrs. Baumbach, could you hem my witch's costume? I need it for tonight." Mrs. Wexler answered, "Can't you see she's busy with Angela's wedding dress? And why must you wear a silly costume like that? Really, Turtle? I don't know why you insist on making yourself ugly." "It's no sillier than a wedding dress," Turtle snapped back. "Besides, nobody gets married anymore, and if they do, they don't wear silly wedding dresses." She was close to a tantrum. "Besides, who would want to marry that stuck-up, know-it-all, marshmallow-faced Dr. Denton?" "That's enough of your smart mouth," Mrs. Wexler leaped up, hand ready to strike. Instead, she straightened a framed flower print, patted her fashionably honey-blonde hairdo, and sat down again. She had never hit Turtle, but one of these days, besides a stranger, was present. "Dr. Deer is a brilliant young man," she explained for Flora Baumbach's ears. The dressmaker smiled politely. "Angela will soon be Angela Deer. Isn't that a precious name?" The dressmaker nodded. "And then we'll have 2 doctors in the family. Now, where do you think you're going?" Turtle was at the front door. "Downstairs to tell Daddy about the smoke coming from the Westinghouse." "Come back this instant. You know your father operates in the afternoon. Why don't you go to your room and work on stock market reports or whatever you do in there?" "Some room. It's even too small for a closet." "I'll hem your witch's costume, Turtle," Angela offered. Mrs. Wexler beamed on her perfect child, draped in white. What an angel. Crow's clothes were black, her skin dead white. She looked severe, rigid in fact, rigid and righteously severe. No one could have guessed that under that stern facade, her stomach was doing flip-flops as Dr. Wexler cut out a corn. Staring down at the fine lines of pink scalp that showed through the podiatrist's thinning light brown hair did nothing to ease her queasiness. So, softly humming a hymn, she settled her gaze on the north window. Smoke. So before I keep reading, I just want to let you know. So a corn is something that forms on your foot after you wear certain shoes for so long. A podiatrist is a foot doctor, okay? Watch it, Jake Wexler almost cut off her little toe along with the corn. Unaware of the near amputation, the cleaning woman stared at the Westinghouse. If you will just sit back, Jake began, but his patient did not hear him. She must have been a handsome woman at one time. But life had used her harshly. Her faded hair, knotted in a tight bun on the nape of her gaunt neck, glinted gold, red in the light. Her profile was fine, marred only by the jet of her clenched jaw. Well, let's get on with it. Friday was his busy day. He had phone calls to make. Please sit back, Mrs. Crow. I'm almost finished. What? Jake gently replaced her foot on the chair's pedestal. I see you've hurt your shin. What? For an instant, their eyes met. Then she looked away. A shy creature, or a guilty one. Crow averted her face when she spoke. Your daughter Turtle kicked me, she muttered, staring once again at the Westinghouse. That's what happens when there is no religion in the home, Sandy says. Westing's corpse is up there, rotting away on an oriental rug. But I don't believe it. If he's truly dead, then he's roasting in hell. We are all sinners, all of us. I do want to show you that in the book, when I'm reading, we do have these little lines. So if you're following along, these little lines are kind of like different scenes. So we were talking about in the book how they were at the dressmaker's shop for a wedding dress for Angela. And then we had these little lines. And so we jumped to a different scene. And that is when the girl is at the Dr. Wexler's for her corn on her foot. Okay. And so now we're going to move on to another scene. And that's how that works. What do you mean his corpse is rotting on an oriental rug? Some kind of Persian rug, maybe a Chinese rug. Mr. Hu joined his son at the glass sidewall of the 5th floor restaurant. And why were you wasting precious time listening to an overaged delivery boy with an overactive imagination when you should have been studying? It was not a question. Doug's father never asked questions. Don't shrug at me. Go study. Sure, Dad. Doug jogged off through the kitchen. It was no use arguing that there was no school tomorrow. Just track practice. He jogged down the back stairs no matter what excuse he gave. Go to study, his father would say. Go study. He jogged into the Who's rear apartment, stretched out on the bare floor, and repeated, go study, to 20 sit-ups. Only 2 customers were expected for the dinner hour. Shin Hu's restaurant could seat 100. Mr. Hu slammed the reservations book shut, pressed a hand against the pane in his ample stomach, unwrapped the chocolate bar, and devoured it quickly before acid etched another ulcer. Back home again is he. Well, Westing won't get off so easy this time, not on his life. A small, delicate woman in a long white apron stood in silence before the restaurant's east window. She stared longingly into the boundless gray distance, as if far, far on the other side of Lake Michigan lay China. So we are going to stop there. I know that we didn't get to the entire chapter, but I think we have a lot of information here. So I want you to stop here and then fill out the questions.